The Who's Pete Townshend says he's glad that Keith Moon and John Entwistle are gone? What? I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. The Who's set to release a brand new album on December 6th, so they're talking to the press. Both Roger Daltrey and Townshend talked to Rolling Stone magazine. We'll have a link to the entire interview in the description of this video. And when talking about Keith Moon and John Entwistle, the guitarist said, "It's not going to make Who fans very happy, but thank God they're gone, because they were blankety blank difficult to play with. They never ever managed to create bands for themselves. I think my musical discipline, my musical efficiency as a rhythm guitarist held the band together." Townshend said that Entwistle's bass sound was like a Messiaen organ, referring to French organist composer Olivier Messiaen. Every note, every harmonic in the sky. When he passed away, and I did the first show without him with Pino Palladino on bass, he was playing without all that stuff. I said, wow. With Keith, my job was keeping time because he didn't do that. So when he passed away, it was like, oh, I don't have to keep time anymore. The guitarist also said that in the old days when he talked about his love for Roger Daltrey, he might have been fibbing a little bit, but adds, now I like him too. I like all his eccentricities, his foibles, his self-obsession, and his singer thing. Everything about him. Daltrey also said that he thinks the new album is better than anything they've done since 1973 in Quadrophenia. Now, artists are famous for saying my new album is my best. Keith Moon, their original drummer, died in 1978, and bassist John Entwistle in 2002. Townshend says, we're not a band anymore. There's a lot of people who don't like it when I say that, but we're not a band. Even when we were, I used to sit there thinking, this is a blankety blank waste of time. Take 26 because Keith Moon has had one glass of brandy too many. Of course, this is making headlines everywhere. Everyone's talking about this particular quote. I remember when my older brother was passing away, a few nights before he died. And my older brother and I never really got along, but the last 6 months of his life, we found a common bond with each other. He wanted me to do his eulogy, but he said, don't make me out to be an angel, because he certainly wasn't. He got his yayas out when he was a teenager. He was a wild one, but he didn't want to be one of those guys that was eulogized as if he was, lit up the room every time he walked in. And had so many friends and everything was positive about him. You know, the 20/20, 48 hours thing. But the difference is, that was his idea. Pete Townshend talking about his old bandmates that way, well, a lot of people are thinking it's in pretty bad taste. Saying what he said is a really sharp comment. It's sort of a kick to the teeth to the fans. And think about the families. Was he being flippant? Was it old man brain? It doesn't seem like he was misquoted when you read the whole thing. We'd love to talk to Pete to ask him to clarify, but when you say something like that, it's hard to take it back. Like imagine Thanksgiving supper and someone blurting out, I'm glad Aunt Mildred is dead. Imagine the reaction. You'd get comments sharper than a chainsaw in a hurricane. He is being honest about the way he feels, and that's refreshing in one way. But is it necessary for him to say that about Keith Moon and John Entwistle? Like it was just, what was it? There was a survey a few weeks ago that came out, look it up, that said John Entwistle was, or someone had said John Entwistle, that's what it was. Someone had said John Entwistle was the greatest bass player of all time. It'll come to me after I finish this video. If you remember it, please put it in the comments. And of course, Keith Moon was probably an incredibly difficult guy to work with. We just had a gentleman on our channel, Christian Trieber, who hung around with The Who for quite a long time in the early days, and he partied with Keith Moon. And I asked him, were you surprised when he died? He said, not really. Keith Moon, I've read a lot about his crazy days. So obviously, any guy who abused his body like that would have problems keeping time. I mean, if you're drunk as a drummer or on something as a drummer, you're not going to be able to keep time. But did that add to The Who's mystique? Did that add to their reputation? Did that get them more headlines? Did that sell them more records? And John Entwistle contributed a lot of songs to The Who. Maybe not the big ones. What do you think? Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music.